In 1951, thieves broke into the home of an elderly lady in London. Among the stolen items were family silver, jewelry, and, most surprisingly, the George Cross, the highest British award for courage awarded to civilians. But a few days later, something incredible happened. A mysterious package was found on the doorstep of the house. Inside was the same St. George's Cross and a note from the thief. A voiceover reads out a text full of a strange, respectful apology. "You, madam, seem like a nice old lady. May God bless you and your children. I thank you for believing in me. I'm not that bad. It's just the way the circumstances turned out." This scene raises the main question. What kind of person could have earned not only such an award, but also received it back, along with an apology from a criminal touched by her story? This is not a story about an impeccable hero, but a chronicle of the life of a woman who turned from an ordinary French housewife into one of the most prominent and famous secret agents of the Second World War. This is the story of Odette Sansom, known by the codename Liz. Odette Marie Céline Brier was born on April 28, 1912, in Amiens, France. Her childhood was overshadowed by the war at an early age. Her father, a banker and a soldier in the French army, died in the Battle of Verdun. Although some sources differ on the time of this event, most point to the year 1918, shortly before the end of the First World War. This event was one of the many trials in her early life. Odette suffered from several serious illnesses, including rheumatic fever and polio. One of these illnesses led to her going blind for almost 2 years and being bedridden for months. These difficulties, however, did not break her spirit. Her ability to endure long periods of physical pain and isolation, to find inner strength when her body was powerless, was not accidental. This resilience is believed to have been formed not in military school, but as a result of childhood suffering. These early trials became a kind of training for her psyche, preparing her to find solace and persevere in moments of extreme hardship. Such a unique psychological shield, forged over years of struggle, proved immune to the tortures she would be subjected to later. By the end of the 1930s, Odette lived in England with her husband, Englishman Roy Sansom, and their 3 daughters. Their marriage was going through difficulties during this period. The German occupation of France in 1940 deeply shocked her, and she decided to help the Allies. Her path to espionage began completely by accident. In 1942, she responded to the call of the BBC, which asked listeners to send photos of the French coast. By mistake, she sent her letter to the Ministry of War instead of the Admiralty, but her message still attracted the attention of the Directorate of Special Operations, or SOE. The SOE, intrigued by her knowledge of French and the country, decided to recruit her. Although SOE's initial assessment was cautious and pointed to her impulsivity and haste in judgment, her strong patriotism prevailed. She agreed to go through a rigorous training program, telling her daughters as a cover that she was joining the ambulance corps. During training, she was seriously injured in an unsuccessful parachute jump, and her airlift to France was postponed. Instead, in October 1942, she set off on a fishing boat to begin her mission. To understand the significance of Odette's mission, you must first understand the activities of the Office of Special Operations. Created to wage a secret war, the SOE was designed, according to the famous order of Winston Churchill, to set Europe on fire. Unlike the SIS intelligence service, which collected information, the SOE was aimed at sabotage and disinformation. Its agents, recruited from a wide range of backgrounds, were trained in guerrilla warfare. In November 1942, Odette arrived in Cannes under the codename Liz, joining the Spindle network, which was headed by Captain Peter Churchill, codename Raoul. Her work was devoid of the romance of spy novels. As a courier, she transported messages and cash, found safe houses for agents such as radio operator Adolf Rabinovich, and prepared landing sites for British planes. She was constantly aware of the danger, being shocked by the negligent attitude to security of some French colleagues. Tension grew due to the persecution by the German counterintelligence officer, Sergeant Hugo Bleicher. Bleicher masterfully used deception to expose the agents, posing as an anti-Nazi colonel named Henry. Odette, instead of falling into a trap, immediately sent a radio message to London reporting the contact. A reply came from London warning that Henry was extremely dangerous. Despite this, she met with Peter Churchill, and this led to their arrest. This episode demonstrates not only Odette's professional instinct, which contradicts her initial assessment at the SOE, but also the uncertainty that agents faced every day, making split-second decisions where even the right choice could turn into disaster. It was this arrest that marked the beginning of her most significant act of heroism. On April 16, 1943, Odette and Churchill were arrested by Bleicher at the hotel and sent to the Fran Prison.
On the way, they agreed on a mutual protection strategy. She would lie that they were married. Odette developed this idea by telling the Gestapo that Churchill was the nephew of Prime Minister Winston Churchill. It was not just an act of self-sacrifice, but a strategy game that brought amazing results. She deliberately drew attention to herself, claiming that Churchill came to France only at her insistence. This tactic saved Churchill from large-scale interrogations as the Gestapo focused on it. Lying about her relationship with Churchill turned her into a valuable political hostage, which ultimately saved her life. It was a masterful psychological game. By exposing herself as a central figure and Peter Churchill as a man with high political connections, she played on the desire of the German bureaucracy to get a high-ranking prisoner. It was a risky move that paid off, showing that her mind was as strategic as her spirit. Odette's ordeal in Fran Prison was terrifying. She went through 14 brutal interrogations. Her tormentors burned her back with a red-hot iron and pulled out all her toenails. One of the executioners, as Odette recalled, was a very handsome young Frenchman, which adds another creepy aspect to her ordeal. Despite all this, she answered only one question: "I have nothing to say." Her silence saved the lives of two crucial agents, including radio operator Rabinovich, whose whereabouts only she knew. After being tortured and interrogated, Odette was sentenced to death on 2 counts of espionage. Her response was the quintessence of her indomitable spirit. "Then you'll have to decide which charge to execute me on, because I can only die once." However, instead of being executed, she was sent to the Ravensbruck concentration camp for women in July 1944. Here she was placed in a punishment cell, starved, and kept in solitary confinement. She once spent 3 months and 11 days in an underground bunker in total darkness, without the slightest ray of light, day and night. Her survival was fueled not only by great acts of defiance, but also by small personal symbols of hope. The study mentions 2 such deeply personal moments: the little green leaf she found on Earth, and the personal notes she kept in a book given to her by a priest from Fran Prison. The sheet became for her the most powerful connection with the forces of life and freedom, and her notes show that she waged an internal struggle, focusing on the spirit of love, even in the face of destruction. These details go beyond the simple description of torture and explore the emotional and spiritual basis of her survival. The sheet and the notes demonstrate that Odette's resilience was not passive patience, but an active and conscious choice in favor of hope and humanity. Her heroism was based on an inner moral compass that could not be broken either by physical torment or by complete isolation. The lie about her relationship with Winston Churchill, which served her so well in prison, eventually became her salvation. On May 3, 1945, when the Allies were approaching Ravensbruck, Camp Commandant Fritz Suren decided to flee. Believing that Odette was a valuable political hostage, he forced her into his sports car and drove her towards the American troops, hoping to use her for negotiations. However, as soon as they met the Americans, Odette immediately ordered that Suren be taken into custody. He was later captured, tried, and hanged for war crimes. After the war, Odette returned to England exhausted and seriously ill. Her first husband, Roy Sansom, had died by then. In 1947, she married Peter Churchill, whom she divorced in 1956 to marry her third husband, Geoffrey Hallows. Her feat became public knowledge when, in 1946, she became the first woman to be awarded the George Cross for courage, endurance, and self-sacrifice of the highest order. She later received the Order of the British Empire and the French Legion of Honor. Odette has become a national heroine of Great Britain, a symbol of resilience. Books were written about her, and the movie Odette was shot in 1950. She was actively engaged in social activities. Her fame was so great that even the story of the apartment thief, who, after learning from whom he stole the St. George's Cross, sent the award back by mail with an apology, became a textbook. Odette Hallows died in 1995, having lived a long life in which there was a place for both heroic struggle and personal happiness. The details of her activities during the war are still kept secret, which only reinforces the legend of the woman who broke the Gestapo by refusing to break herself. The story of Odette Sansom is not an action movie filled with explosions and shootings. This is a deep human drama about a different kind of war of wills, which was fought in the silence and darkness of prison cells. It is a testament to the fact that the greatest courage lies not in physical strength, but in the indestructible determination of the human spirit. After going through years of quiet suffering as a child and facing the unimaginable brutality of war, Odette proved that the body can be broken, but the spirit will remain unconquered. Her legacy lives on not only in the awards she received, but also in the simple, poignant truth she uttered after the war. I want to remember dignity, the dignity of people deprived of everything. This is the dignity she deserves and which she has left to us all.